I love that intro. Hello everyone, this is Tetrafolium, and I'm here today to talk about Jynx, who is possibly one of the most annoying Pokemon in the tier, at least the most annoying lead. Well, I don't know. Sometimes people will lead some crazy stuff like Unknown. Uh, who else watched that Jim Cool video? Um, but yeah, I hope that you don't fall asleep to this song. This is a really good song to fall asleep to, in my opinion. But maybe my dulcet tones will uh, aid in. I actually probably more commonly gonna fall asleep to that. Never mind. Um, the ADV viability rankings. Jynx is ranked pretty highly. I think that this is a Pokemon that top players value a little bit more than lower experienced players. And I think that has to do with how important sleep is as a move or a mechanic in this generation. Obviously, Jynx, as we know, is a sleep inducer. You see three in a row, in fact, with Breloom, Smeargle, and Jynx all right there. Um, so yeah, if we take this D rank to mean like basically OU viable, then Jynx is there, even though it is UUBL ranked. I don't believe it's ever been OU ranked, although somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that. In any case, we'll move on to talk about sleep. This is going to be rehashing some of the things that I talked about in my Venusaur video, so I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. If you want more in-depth analysis on sleep, then you can go and watch my Venusaur video. Um, but essentially, in Gen 3, your Pokemon will be asleep for 1 to 4 turns. It's guaranteed to sleep for at least 1 turn, unless it has the ability Early Bird. Then it can wake up on the first turn, which is kind of crazy. Each turn is equally likely to wake up on, so it's about a 25% chance on any given turn to wake up. Now, that being said, if you've already been asleep for 1 turn, 2 turns, then that's not a possibility anymore. So the odds shift, but I'm not here to explain Bayes' theorem or anything like that. Although we will be doing some probability calculations in a moment, so strap in for that. But here are your sleep-inducing moves in the generation. Grass Whistle does not really exist. I guess if you want to use Lead Roselia, uh, sure. But all the rest of these moves are fairly relevant. Yawn is maybe a little bit less so, but yeah, you definitely see all these moves. Here are your lead sleep inducers, at least the 5 most common ones. You also might see Milotic with Hypnosis as well in the lead slot. Generally, if you do see a Milotic lead, then it is probably trying to Hypnosis something. So even more of a reason to lead Zapdos. Uh, but we're here to talk about these sleep inducers, and of these Pokemon, uh, I've asked some people what they think, and a lot of people like Breloom as their lead sleep guy. But honestly, in my opinion, I think Jynx might be the best, at least at doing this specific thing. And that is to do with its higher speed stat. Now, yes, Gengar is the fastest, but Hypnosis 60% accuracy is a little bit dicey. And there are a lot of other things that I would like Gengar to be able to do in a game, other than just fish for the sleep. Whereas Jynx, I mean, it is powerful enough that with a few free turns of sleep, then it can snowball the game. You see what I did there? It's an ice type. I snowball the. Never mind. Uh, let's go on to talk about this sleep plus speed that Jynx so greatly puts to work. Um, Generally, not as a rule, but generally, the sleep inducers are frail. Venusaur is probably the bulkiest of them, but Smeargle, Gengar, Jynx, Breloom even are all pretty likely to get one shot by moves that aren't even super effective. I mean, look at Jynx's defense stat, 35. That's really, really bad. That is like Doug Trio levels of terrible. But Yeah, and just to highlight this, let's take a look at a calc here. So this is Claydol Earthquake, and yes, I know that Claydol runs 216 in an Adamant Nature, which is a lot of investment, but it's also a base 70 attack stat. And yes, Earthquake is a pretty strong move and stab, but once again, like if you're not hitting for super effective with Claydol's Earthquake, you're not really doing much damage. Like look at how much Claydol's Earthquake will do to something like a Snorlax or like um, even like a Metacham who's not that bulky either. But against standard Jynx, which is not running much investment at all, in fact, none, you are 68% likely, or pretty much 69% likely to get a one-shot kill with Claydol. That is pretty bad for Jynx. It's guaranteed, in fact, after sand damage. So yeah, that's not fantastic. But because Jynx has uh, the speed to uh, act first against most Pokemon in the tier, it actually doesn't have to worry about this as much. And let's sort of highlight what I mean by this. So let's examine what happens if Jynx leads into a Tyranitar. I'm going to use Bulky Attacker Tyranitar as an option. I don't think Bulky Attacker or BKC Tar is super duper common as a lead. I think you would generally see Mixed or some type of DD Tyranitar as a lead more commonly, but I want to use Bulky Attacker because it has the highest HP investment without having a Lumberry. Because obviously if it has a Lumberry, then Jynx is kind of screwed, but we're going to take this into consideration. And you can also do the same thing for like Pursuit and sometimes Mixed if it's running no speed and all HP. But essentially on turn 1, Jynx has a 75% chance to land Lovely Kiss. If it misses, then Tyranitar is going to KO back with HP Bug or with Earthquake, assuming it's Adamant, of course. Your opponent might opt to click Rock Slide instead, which is not necessarily a great move because it's only 90% accurate. Yes, it will kill Jynx if it lands, but you're giving a 10% chance for Jynx to get bailed out if it misses its Lovely Kiss. So I don't know if I would recommend that. You could also, I mean, Bulky Attacker does not run DD, but if you had DD, maybe that was an option. And if you have Focus Punch, well, yes, that will KO Jynx, but you're banking on Lovely Kiss to miss and for Jynx to not click Ice Beam. So I don't know if I would recommend that move either. If Lovely Kiss lands, Tyranitar will burn its guaranteed first turn on turn 1. Because Tyranitar, in its turn on the turn, I don't know, it's half of the turn, it will be fast asleep. So that will count as 1 turn burned. Now on turn 2, by this stage, I mean, just in general, Jynx has about an 80% chance to 3-hit KO Tyranitar through its leftovers with Ice Beam. So we might opt to attack with Jynx right now. But note that Tyranitar has a 25% chance to wake up on any given turn. So it could wake up after taking 1 Ice Beam, and then we don't really get that much out of it. But the chances that it's going to be asleep for more than 1 turn is technically higher, so we could just kind of fish for enough turns of sleep for Jynx to win this matchup. So let's do a little calculation to figure out what Jynx's chances to win are. So this is going to get a little bit into some probability. I'm not going to explain entirely how all of this works because I don't feel like being a math teacher right now, even though I do have a degree in math. But I'll leave a link to a video by Pinkacross in the description where he talks a lot more about probability. Now he's talking about it from the Gen 9 perspective, but it essentially applies to all generations of Pokemon. So The chance that we land Lovely Kiss is 75%. The chance that Tyranitar is going to stay asleep for at least 3 turns is 50%, because it has a 25% chance to wake up on the first 2 turns before Jynx has a chance to get the kill, right? And Jynx has an 80% chance to have the rolls to kill with Ice Beam. So that's one avenue that Jynx could win this 1v1. Another avenue is if Jynx does not get the 80% roll to get, or the 80% chance to get the rolls it needs to 3-hit KO, but Tyranitar could stay asleep for an additional turn. And that's 25% likely to happen. So in this 20% world where Jynx does not get the 3-hit KO, it's possible that Tyranitar could sleep for the max number of turns, and Jynx could then land the additional Ice Beam here. So this all together is about a 33.75% chance to happen. So Jynx can win this matchup about a third of the time. I didn't factor in crits. I mean, freeze chance is pretty negligible because you would have to land an Ice Beam on Tyranitar while it's awake. But how are you going to do that? Because Tyranitar is just going to kill you. If I got this math wrong, you can blame Pinkacross for not teaching me well enough, but this is essentially the idea here. Now, obviously, about a 1/3 chance for Jynx to win is not great. But if Tyranitar was faster than Jynx, we would have a 0% chance to win because it would just kill us. So take that into account. But this is not the only element of Jynx's game, just fishing for max turns of sleep and beating down the opponent, because we can simply switch to a Tyranitar counter, and as long as it stays asleep for 1 additional turn, like other than the guaranteed turn, 75% likely to happen, we can just destroy the Tyranitar there if it chooses to stay in. Now, a lot of times people will switch their Pokemon when it's asleep, but that has some problems as well that I'll talk about more when we get into the replays. All right, so let's take a look at Jynx versus some of the leads in the metagame. Some of these Pokemon, Jynx doesn't even really have to get a lot of turns of sleep against to really beat them. So these top 3 here, I would say Jynx is favored into these. It kind of depends. Like if Salamence is faster, that could change some things. But Jynx's best matchup is probably into Zapdos, who's going to die to an Ice Beam 80% of the time if it's not HP invested. And even if it is the rest Zapdos, you will kill it with 2 Ice Beams. So Jynx will outspeed most Salamence sets, although Salamence can opt to run a plus speed nature, which would make it faster than Jynx. If it outspeeds, Jynx is going to kill with Ice Beam. If Salamence outspeeds, it really depends on what the Salamence set is. So if it's a physical attacking Salamence, like you can kiss your Jynx goodbye, especially like Choice Band, though Choice Band is really the only physical Mence that would run max speed. But it's so incentivized to run on an Adamant nature because of how high its attack stat is. But against a mixed Salamence, it has a chance to kill with Fire Blast. So it's 87.5% likely to kill like the standard Jynx. But that's assuming that it hits. So that's kind of a little bit of a nasty dilemma for Salamence. Oh, actually, sorry. That's if this is a modest or a rash Salamence. Let's see if we're timid. In fact, it's only a 37% chance to OHKO with Fire Blast if it is running enough speed to outspeed Jynx. And then factor in the mischance. Jynx is favored to win that 1v1. so that's pretty good. But most Salamence are not going to be max speed, though I guess there could be an argument for running max speed in the lead slot. So little bit. Jynx wins most of the time. Salamence could still win depending on its set, though. Skarmory has no way to OHKO Jynx unless it crits its Drill Peck. I believe even let me check Yellow Skarm. I know Yellow Skarm calcs. Okay. Yellow Skarm has a very small chance to OHKO with Drill Peck. It is like literally like 6%. It has to get the max roll. But the thing is, Jynx outspeeds. If it clicks Ice Beam, it 2-hit KOs Yellow Skarm. Yellow Skarm has to avoid the freeze. It has to decide to stay in to get sleep sacked potentially, and it would have to hit the max roll or crit with Drill Peck. So, like, this is not a good play. Do not do this with your Yellow Skarm. But Jynx, yeah, if it puts Skarmory to sleep, then you can neutralize your opponent's ability to generate spikes, which is usually a big part of the game plan of teams that opt to lead Skarmory. So this is really good for Jynx as well. Now I'll talk about the mons that Jynx is probably just going to lose against, which would be Metagross and Suicune. If Metagross has a Lumberry, it will very consistently beat Jynx. Like Jynx can put it to sleep, and the Lumberry will activate, and then Metagross is going to kill with practically any move that it clicks. If you're running lead agility Metagross for some reason, then yeah, you can snowball the game really early. But if it's not a lead Lumberry Metagross, which a lot of times they are lead choice band, you can try to put it to sleep, but you're pretty much going to have to switch immediately because Jynx does not have a strong enough move to try to fish for the 1v1 here. You could run HP Fire. It's possible. But you're not doing enough. I think you're in the 3-hit KO range against most Metagross, so that's not ideal. Suicune can generally beat 1v1. Jynx 1v1. But Lovely Kiss and Perish Song, which is a potential move that Jynx could run, can be kind of dangerous for Suicune. It's I don't know if I would advise staying in with Suicune to go for like Hydro Pumps or Surf, or definitely I would not Calm Mind usually, because Jynx is just going to put you to sleep and then switch to something that deals with Suicune a lot better. And yes, I know that Suicune oftentimes runs Rest, and it's okay being asleep sometimes, but what's nice about Rest is the consistency. You like to know that you're only going to be asleep for 2 turns, whereas with getting slept by Lovely Kiss, you have no idea when you're going to wake up, so it's really hard to make a good play and to predict what's going to happen. So yeah, even though you tend to run Rest on Suicune, you do not want to get put to sleep, usually. And then there's Tyranitar, who's very volatile in this matchup. If it's holding a Lumberry, it will win, guaranteed. If it doesn't have a Lumberry, then Jynx can sleep and beat it down, like we talked about in the previous slide. It can switch to something that will help out against the Tyranitar matchup better, or you could just trade into it and then revenge kill with something like a Dugtrio or a Metagross. And this is something that we'll talk about, I believe, on the next slide, is Jynx's ability to trade into unfavorable lead matchups. And then, yeah, I just want to note again that you generally do outspeed Salamence, and you about half the time will outspeed Zapdos, but if they run max speed, then they will be faster than Jynx. So, we're going to be talking about Porygon 2, except it's not actually Porygon 2. I think you probably if you know what Porygon 2 is all about, you probably understand where we're going with this. Some Pokemon that Jynx is kind of not very good into are Tyranitar, Metagross, and Blissey. And yeah, I know I talked about the beatdown on Tyranitar, but a lead Dragon Dance Tyranitar, especially one with Lumberry, is really, really tough for Jynx to do much to. Because if you go for Lovely Kiss, even if you hit it, you don't get anything out of it. Tyranitar DDs up, and now you have to sack something, basically, to continue playing the game. If you opt to go for Ice Beam into this, you're usually not even 2-hit KOing. In fact, you are pretty much never 2-hit KOing. And Tyranitar can simply go for another Dragon Dance, and +2/+2 Tyranitar in the lead is extremely difficult to play against. Unless you have a massive, massive Tyranitar counter on your team, which like a Breloom, which I don't know if I would recommend Jynx plus Breloom, although maybe could be interesting. But the idea with Jynx is that Dugtrio is a really good partner for it, because it handles all three of these Pokemon pretty well. Now, is it going to handle all three Pokemon in the same game? Probably not, but you can definitely use Dugtrio to eliminate one of these targets. So basically, the idea is Jynx is going to opt to Ice Beam or whatever it's going to do, whatever its best move to hit what's in front of it, which is usually Ice Beam. Take a little bit of damage, and then it's going to die. And then it's going to give the last of its Hormone to Dugtrio. It's very sad. The whole Jynx dies for that. But Dugtrio then comes in, and then it's going to 1 or 2-hit KO any of these with Earthquake. Now, Metagross is a little bit of a... It's difficult to find the rolls if you're having to click Ice Beam into it, so take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I have a sort of solution for that. Or if you're a real gamer, you can just like switch the Dugtrio in hard on something like Tyranitar and eliminate that without having to sacrifice the Jynx. So there you go, Shimon. To back me up with this, Porydex stats suggest that Dugtrio is on almost 75% of Jynx teams. And I'm going to say that this statistic is probably deflated due to players forfeiting before they reveal Dugtrio. Jynx is very, very commonly a lead if it's used at all. It can be used in the back. It's not necessarily bad at that. But as I sort of highlighted in my Venusaur video, you definitely like to have a sleep-inducing Pokemon in the lead slot. And yeah, Dugtrio is on virtually every Jynx team. If you can find a Jynx team that doesn't use Dugtrio, please send it to me, because I'd like to see what your goal for beating Tyranitar, Metagross, and Blissey are if you do not have Dugtrio. But I also wanted to note that according to the Porydex stats, is that Sceptile is more commonly seen in OU than Jynx is, that's kind of strange to me. I mean, all right, Sceptile fans, go off, but that was interesting. Now we'll talk about some of the Jynx sets. So first I want to talk about the Trapper Jynx sets. While I don't think these are very common, I mean, you see them from time to time, and they have their niches. So the first one is the Calm Mind Trapper. You use Mean Look to lock your opponent in with you, and then you Calm Mind up to preferably like +2, maybe +3. And then you can Ice Beam down and kill whatever's in front of you. You can use Lovely Kiss to generate some more free turns, and this is generally going to work the best on Pokemon that have only special attacks to hit you. For example, like a Calm Mind Celebi, preferably the one that doesn't run HP Fire. You can mean look the Celebi, you'll take a hit pretty well, and then you can either Lovely Kiss or you can go for Ice Beam, depending on what how much damage the Celebi is doing into you. Um, so, and then you will pretty easily 2-hit KO it as long as you stay ahead on Calm Minds. And that could be enough to just win a game outright if your opponent has nothing faster than Jynx. If they have nothing that walls Jynx like a Blissey or Metagross or Jirachi. So yeah, you could do this, and then what's nice is if you eliminate the Pokemon that you mean look trap, then it's somewhat likely that you can Lovely Kiss the next Pokemon and then eliminate that as well. This set is something that you could definitely run in the lead slot, and I mean, it's not bad. If you have leftovers, you're actually really good into Blissey, well, within some bounds. You can mean look the Blissey. If Blissey's best move to hit you is Ice Beam or even Seismic Toss and you have leftovers, then you are going to be fine. If you land your Lovely Kiss and get lots of turns, you can Calm Mind up to +6, and then Ice Beam, I believe, is 2-hit KOing Blissey. Let's check that, actually. Oh yeah, pretty comfortably you're gonna 2-hit KO Blissey. Now, if it's a Calm Mind Blissey, or if it has like Toxic, or if it has Flamethrower, then things get a little bit dicey. Or if it has like Thunder Wave, that could be pretty bad for you as well. But this is how Jynx can maybe beat Blissey. Perish Trapper is more explicitly a Blissey counter. You're going to Mean Look, you're going to Perish Song, you're going to Lovely Kiss to try to get some free turns. I mean, you can set up a substitute as well to give yourself a little bit more safety. Now, the thing is, this is a pretty high variance strategy. If you miss your Lovely Kiss, if you only get like minimum turns of sleep, then the opponent can kind of beat you. But this is another reason why you like to have something like Dugtrio on the team. Dugtrio you can switch from Jynx to Dugtrio if the opponent can't beat Dugtrio. And Dugtrio will continue to trap the opponent as the Parasong counter goes down. This is where you might see some very strange Dugtrio sets like Leftovers with Substitute and Protect. And if you pair this with something like a Celebi with Leech Seed, you actually can use a really passive Dugtrio to eliminate a lot of Pokemon that you otherwise shouldn't be able to, which is, I think, really interesting. There's definitely a future of lead Perish Trapper Jynx, Leech Seed, Baton Pass, Celebi, and Sub Protect Dugtrio. I don't know if that future is going to be on this channel per se, but somebody on the ladder is going to try that now that I've mentioned it. But yeah, this I find the EVs kind of strange on this because you're hitting exactly 299 with this, which is speed tying the neutral base 100s. My suggestion is that you steal 4 HP EVs and put them into speed so that you can be 300 speed, so that you're faster than all the neutral base 100s. Like, there's just too many Pokemon that will run that speed stat for you to be speed tying them when you don't have to. So yeah, I would just suggest that you do this. Don't ask me what the 252 HP 70 Spadef is helping you live. I'm just not interested in calculating that. So some other sets that you might see, Fake Tears is a very interesting move. I believe it lowers Spadef by 2 stages. So you can find some Pokemon that are trying to switch in to bully the Jynx, like a Snorlax, and hit that with the Fake Tears, and then your Ice Beam is doing effectively double damage. This set also runs Psychic, which is Jynx's other stab, pretty commonly forgotten about, honestly. Um, Psychic is fine. It hits some decent Pokemon. Like Hariyama would probably be the most relevant Pokemon to hit because it has the option to run Thick Fat, and it is also a pretty common lead. So your Psychic from a timid Jynx, let's just check that. Jynx, Fake Tears with its Psychic into a Hariyama lead. We'll just say knockoff because that is one of the more common sets. You'll be doing about 75% to it immediately, which is not bad. That being said, you are just completely OHKO'd by pretty much every move except for a knockoff. They're not running cross chop as much anymore in the lead. They could run brick break, which you have a chance to live, about 50%. So yeah, I mean, Psychic could be good for that if you're worried about Hariyama. In that case, what I would generally recommend is that you Lovely Kiss and then you try to Psychic twice. Could be the line there. But yeah, Fake Tears is a little bit niche. It's better in some interactions, but generally you're going to see this Calm Mind set. This is probably the most common Jynx set with Calm Mind, Ice Beam, Lovely Kiss, Substitute. So the idea is that you Lovely Kiss whatever's in front of you, set up a substitute, and then you Calm Mind until the Pokemon wakes up. Then you put it to sleep again, and then you can either keep Calm Minding or start going for Ice Beams, at which point you deem that it's appropriate. And if somebody plays really badly around this, you could just win. You could just 6-0 with Jynx. Now, against a halfway competent player, you're probably not going to 6-0 with Jynx, but you could still get a lot of momentum, especially if your opponent's only, like, if their form of counterplay is hoping that they wake up with their lead. That is, I would not advise that generally, even if it's something like Metagross, who should be beating Jynx most of the time. I would just take a sleep sack and then switch to something else that handles Jynx, preferably like a Metagross in the back. But the thing that really, really sucks about facing this set, and which is why Jynx is one of the most annoying leads, is you could sleep sack your lead and then switch to your Jynx counter, and then Ice Beam freezes them. And if that happens, Jynx like pseudo killed 2 Pokemon, and now it's Calm Minding in your face. And like I've definitely had a game or two where a lead Jynx has done that to me, and I just lose. Like I can't do anything about it. So yeah, that's tough. This is the reason why you should run Blissey. In any case, we're going to talk about my version of this special sweeper set, which is it has some use cases I'm going to talk about, but I'm not here to claim that it's superior to this one. It's more just a matter of what you want your Jynx to do. So this set I call the Trader. I forgot to mention who Ice Beam OHKOs, but as you can imagine, it's going to be all the things that are weak to ice, because Jynx has a pretty strong special attack stat. I mean, with this exact spread, you have the same attack stat as something like a max special attack Jirachi or Celebi. So whatever you feel like they are, however strong you feel they are, Jynx is that strong, and it's using Ice Beam as its stab rather than just Psychic. So that's good to know. So you are also just really nice into neutral hits with Ice Beam. I mean, it's going to 2-hit KO a lot of things, or 3-hit KO almost everything that doesn't resist it. Blissey being kind of the exception there. But what's nice about this is you can generate momentum with Lovely Kiss. You can substitute up, and we have HP Fire instead of Calm Mind. So the reason why we have HP Fire is to trade into Metagross. The idea is that HP Fire is going to deal enough damage to Metagross that Dugtrio can come in and kill it on the follow-up. Which can be pretty good because a lot of times lead Metagross is really, really nasty uh, with its choice band set. Sometimes they're just going to Houdini, which means that they're turn one choice band explosion, um, which could be that could be bad. But if you want to play around that, you can either go for Lovely Kiss or Substitute. If you hit your Lovely Kiss, then you will stop the Metagross from exploding, and then you have the option to try to beat it down with HP Fire. I mean, if you're gonna trade the Jynx anyway, I might as well. Um, or you could substitute to test to see if it will explode, and that is a phenomenal turn. If you substitute and then Metagross explodes, and you just lose like 25% on Jynx for that. That's great. Um, Now, do I think that you should always just trade HP Fire into Metagross? Maybe not. Like it could be the case that Jynx is really good into your opponent's team, but it's hard to gauge because all you know on turn one is what your opponent led. So, like you don't have a lot of information, so it can be a little bit difficult to make these decisions. But HP Fire gives you this option if you have a team that generally wants to eliminate Metagross early. Um, could be good with something like a Blissey in the back if you like that. But I opted to go slightly different direction. And then Substitute is great on Pokemon that are switching out, especially if you manage to land the Lovely Kiss on their lead. Um, a lot of times they will just switch, and then you can get behind a Substitute, which gives you a turn to click Ice Beam or HP Fire into whatever comes in. HP Fire is also kind of nice for Magneton. I'm gonna calc that one real quick. Uh, HP Fire. Probably should have had that one on deck, honestly, but uh, Magneton is not a Pokemon that I generally think too much about in terms of my calcs, but HP Fire is dealing at least 75%. So I mean, you're probably not going to have a lot of spikes up with Elite Jynx, but if you did, you could just HP Fire it out. If you have Substitute up, then you're 2-hit KOing a Magneton with HP Fire, and sometimes Magneton will be the switch. They just assume that they resist all of Jynx's moves, because it's usually Mono Ice Beam, sometimes has Psychic, so... But HP Fire could be nice, and I do like this Ice Fire coverage, as you probably could have told that about me if you watched my Nidoqueen video. I do think that Ice Fire is really nice. So yeah, and then the speed, we're max speed, but HP Fire necessitates that we cannot run max speed IVs, so we are going to be at 316. You could go down a little bit, like maybe to like 310 or 309 if you want to speed creep defensive Gengar. Um, both Gengar and Celebi sometimes run just enough speed to creep a max speed Moltres, which hits 306. So you could just creep that back, but I couldn't find any like amount of HP, Spadef, or defense investment that like significantly changed any roles for Jynx. I mean, maybe you could do a little bit of defense investment to make sure that you don't die to Drill Peck from a Yellow Scarm, I guess. But I think I'd rather just have max speed, make sure that I outspeed everything that might show up. Although it does kind of suck that we're going to lose to opposing Jynx or Houndoom if such things show up. But Jynx is already really bad into Houndoom because of I mean, Fire Dark is like the natural enemy of Ice Psychic, and Houndoom has Pursuit, so you can't even really switch. You're just gonna have to take the death. And if it has Early Bird, Lovely Kiss might not even save you. So that's pretty brutal. But yeah, most importantly, we're faster than all the base 100s at their neutral nature. If you are running a Jynx that's any slower than that, then you are using this Pokemon incorrectly. Just definitive End of sentence. You are using this Pokemon incorrectly if you are not at least 300 speed. Um, The team structure that I opted to go for is a CM pass team. I've used Celebi in quite a few of my videos. I think it's a really good Pokemon. It's really versatile. But one thing I've almost never done with it is Baton Pass. So I wanted to give that a try. And I thought Jynx might be a decent facilitator of that. Jynx tends to fit on special offense structures because it pairs very well with Dugtrio and a lot of the special offense Pokemon, like your Gengar, like your Jirachi, like to have Dugtrio support to eliminate things like Metagross and Tyranitar and Blissey, obviously. Um, so yeah, that's the kind of structure we're gonna go for. This Dugtrio is designed to live Earthquake from Jolly Tyranitar. It's going to outspeed Adamant Tyranitar after a Dragon Dance, and it will usually OHKO both of them with EQ. Now, if you have a 252 HP Tyranitar, we're never going to OHKO that, but as long as it doesn't have a Dragon Dance up, and it's not Adamant, which is not very common on a 252 HP Tyranitar. Specifically, I mean that it generally does run Adamant if it has max HP investment. Then we might be kind of screwed. But we have a chance to live EQ from Adamant Tyranitar, so it's not the end of the world. And if we get it low, low enough for like Gengar Thunderbolt to kill it, then we're kind of okay. Everything on this team outspeeds Tyranitar, which is kind of interesting. This is why special offense is low key kind of good, is because all the Pokemon are really fast for no reason. In any case, Celebi is going to be CMBPing to facilitate Jynx, Jirachi, or Gengar to sweep. Celebi is generally going to get 1 BP off a game, maybe 2, depending on what your opponent's structure is like. So you want to find a moment where a baton passing a Calm Mind to one of those 3 Pokemon can win you the game. Now, that's not to say that you can't baton pass to Salamence or Dugtrio. There are definitely cases where that makes sense. Giving a Spadef boost to Dugtrio or Salamence can make it better into Blissey. Like Salamence with a Spadef boost will live an Ice Beam from Blissey, generally speaking. So it's not a terrible play, depending on the situation. But generally, you're going to want to pass to one of your special sweepers. So Jirachi, this is a kind of interesting Jirachi set. It's balancing Bulk to live Arrow and Dug with a kind of middle speed stat. It's a little bit faster than the base 65s, which would be like Scizor, Umbreon, and Vaporeon. Why? Well, there are a lot of things that want to speed creep Tyranitar, and I opted to speed creep all of those by going up to the next like speed benchmark. So that's the ideal with this Jirachi. It's super Rachi, but with defensive investment. Now, arguably, you could go to 270 so that you can outspeed an Adamant Heracross, which is really good on a Psychic Jirachi, but you'll cut into your special attack investment, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that. And I already had some pretty good speed control with Salamence and Gengar and Dugtrio and Jynx on the team, so I think I could afford to not be super duper fast on my Jirachi, although that is definitely an option for you if you want to cut into your special attack investment and get a little bit more speed. That is, I think that's fine. And then as for the Salamence, we'll kind of see what the Salamence set is in a moment here. So that is going to do it for this portion of the video. Snowpoint City nighttime theme. You are really cool, but let's talk about a similarly cool song. Wow, that is really loud. Let's turn that down just a little bit. This is Ice Cave, specifically from Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver. I guess we're kind of in a Gen 4 mood today. The problem with Jynx, as far as it goes in Gen 3, is that the only way you can get it is trading a Poliwhirl to some old man in Cerulean City in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Like, it makes it really difficult for Jynx to have that strong Gen 3 identity like some other Pokemon do. Like, you know, I think about Skarmory and it's like, oh yeah, like in that soot-covered route north of the desert in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Like, even though it's a Gen 2 Pokemon, it has a strong Gen 3 identity, and Jynx is just like the opposite of that. Arguably, like, Electabuzz and Magmar are kind of that way as well, because they're version exclusives in Leaf Green and Fire Red. Don't quote me on which one is which. I think Electabuzz is Leaf Green, Magmar's Fire Red, but they're in like tucked away in some not super commonly visited areas like the power plant and the Sevi Islands. So none of them have really a strong identity. I know somebody's gonna ask me if I'm gonna make the Magmar video to complete the trio, and maybe some other day. Alright, so we're here against a username. I don't know if I can say that, so I'm not going to. And I'm doing my Hum Yum impression by using the camper avatar. Shoutouts to Hum Yum. Lead Jynx versus Zapdos. This is the best matchup. Ice Beam is a roll to kill. I don't get the roll, but I am faster, and I don't get paralyzed by Thunderbolt, so that's cool with me. Now, intuiting that my opponent would want to switch and save the Zapdos, because Zapdos, even at 10%, is still pretty valuable. It's got a really strong Thunderbolt, and it outspeeds most things. Not necessarily on my team, but on a lot of other teams it will. So I opt to go for a Lovely Kiss. I feel like that's fairly low drawback. The worst case scenario is that Zapdos stays in and then I can't sleep anything else, but that's fine because a Zapdos that's asleep at like 17% HP after Leftovers recovery is essentially a non-factor in the game, unless it somehow has Sleep Talk, but I really doubt it based on the damage that I did with Ice Beam. So I catch a Jirachi coming in, which is really, really nice. I could go to Dugtrio here if I wanted to. And my opponent switches to Tyranitar, which would have been a really good play for me if I went to Dugtrio. They probably just immediately lose on turn 3 if I do that. But instead I opt to go for HP Fire. I was more so willing to beat down the Jirachi, at least while it's got that turn of sleep. It could have caught something like if another Steel type, if such a thing existed on this team. A lot of teams do like to double or even triple up on Steel types because Steel is just such a good defensive type. But Tyranitar comes in instead. I wish I went to Dugtrio. That would have been awesome. But at this stage, Jynx is not really doing much to Tyranitar. So I'm going to take the Ice Beam trade and kill it. And I kind of thought that this might be a Pursuit Tyranitar based on how willing it was to come in on the Jynx. So I think I end up making the right play here because Dugtrio is now guaranteed to kill with Earthquake. So that's the Tyranitar gone. Now Gengar's looking very strong in this game. And Skarmory comes in, which allows me to go Gengar very, very freely. T-Bolt is going to do a lot to Skarmory. I get the Para as well, which is kind of nice to have. This reveals to be a Drill Peck Skarm, so it's not completely walled by Gengar. But my opponent will now go to Swampert, which I Giga Drain. Gets a lot of HP back, puts it in Torrent range, so Surf is going to do a lot of damage to me, but that is fine. And then Arrow is revealed as the last. It's just called El Clasico. I can't remember. I think this is a common team structure. I think it has some sort of name. But because my Gengar is still so good into this team, I'm going to save it and go to Jirachi, who gets crit with Rock Slide, which is not great, because now I'm a little bit limited on what I can do with Jirachi to check this Aerodactyl later. But Zapdos will come in, die. I get my Leftovers recovery back, which is nice. I'll go to Salamence, predicting Earthquake, but it's also fine if my opponent goes for Rock Slide because I get the Intimidate off, and that means that any other of my Pokemon can switch in to a weakened Rock Slide. And I don't feel like I need Salaman's health that much for this game. So I will go to Dugtrio. I assume that this is not going to do much for me. It might be able to eliminate the Jirachi, but that's fine. I'm willing to go for a Rock Slide here, but I get flinched, which is unfortunate. And now Jirachi can come in. This Aerodactyl cannot stay in, so my opponent will switch to Skarm, and I will go for Calm Mind, which, more importantly than having the juice to kill this Skarmory, is that it gives me an extra turn of Leftovers recovery. Which my Jirachi's health is going to be the most important resource going into the end game here. Now, I do manage to catch my opponent going for Earthquake there with my Salamence, and that gives me a free turn to Dragon Dance, which essentially is going to end the game. As long as I hit my Rock Slide on Aerodactyl, nothing can switch in here because Salamence outspeeds everything, and I have a move to do massive damage to everything. So my opponent's only out here is for me to miss Rock Slide. I will go for it. I get the kill on Aerodactyl, and yeah, this is over. I mean, Jirachi can come in, but I'm just going to 2-hit KO it easily with Earthquake. And there you go. Yeah, did Jynx do a lot for me in this game? Not really into like the mid and end game, but it basically took out Zapdos, put a Jirachi to sleep, and then set up for Tyranitar to die to my Dugtrio. So that was like 3 Pokemon that it very, very negatively affected. So that's awesome. Now, let's go into the next game here. And it's a actually, I wanted to show this game next. Forget the Salamence lead. So we actually have a lead Hariyama into Jynx. I go for Lovely Kiss, and then I miss and I get killed with Brick Break. So that was very unlucky. The 25% to miss, and then about 50-50 to die to Hariyama Brick Break. If it's a standard knockoff Hariyama, but I think we're going to find out that it's not. But that is unfortunate, and I do want to show this because this is a 1 in 4 games. This is what's going to happen if you go for the lead Lovely Kiss with Jynx. But that being said, you can't be scared of clicking Lovely Kiss with Jynx on the lead unless it's something that is very commonly running Lumberry. Then yeah, be scared. But if you're too scared to click Lovely Kiss, then don't play with Jynx. That's my advice for you. But yeah, no, I'm gonna have to go to Salamence here, and then my opponent goes to Jirachi, which reveals to be most likely a defensive Jirachi. I'll go to Dugtrio because I shouldn't be threatened too badly. If my opponent goes for a Body Slam, that could be bad, but I will try to take the Earthquake chip onto that Jirachi. Now I'll switch to my own Jirachi to wall the Salamence, and then I can go for Calm Minds here, as my opponent goes for Fire Punch. If you're a defensive Jirachi against a Calm Mind Jirachi, I think it's better to get the Para. But also, like, sometimes the Jirachi will run Substitute, which can be really bad for you. The Celebi is going to try to 1v1 me with Hidden Power Grass, I guess. I'm just going to take the kill on it. And then Starmie comes in, and I'm starting to notice a sort of team structure here. I think I know what the last is. Do you know what the last is? Pause if you don't and try to figure it out. In any case, Starmie comes in. I don't want to take the Thunder Wave. I kind of lost track of where I was, so I will go to Celebi. And then I Baton Pass here because I have so many Pokemon that can switch in pretty well to all of these guys. And if I get Jirachi here with the Dugtrio, I could just kill it. Now, it gets the Body Slam Para, which is unfortunate, but as long as I don't get full Parrot on the next turn here, this Jirachi is kaput. And I get full Parrot, so that is unfortunate. See ya, Dugtrio. But now Celebi is in a pretty good spot here. I assumed that the Jirachi was going to protect, so I'm going to go for Calm Mind. Doesn't exactly work out, but I can Baton Pass to Jirachi, who comes in on a Toxic from Salamence, which tells me that it's probably Wish Salamence, which can't really beat my Jirachi one-on-one. I'll take the Psychic damage on whatever wants to switch in, which happens to be Starmie, and then I can go to Celebi. who gets full parried, I believe, on my turn that I go for Baton Pass, which is really bad, and then Marowak is revealed. So this is Star's Yama Whack team. I say even in the chat that this is starting to look familiar because if you've watched my Hariyama, sorry, not my Hariyama video, my Marowak video, I've used a team that was based on this team. So kind of interesting how that plays out. Celebi can always switch in on this Starmie. I know it is a mono Starmie, meaning it only has Surf as its attacking move. And I don't mind getting paralyzed there. So I'm going to make the same play here, going to Salamence on Marowak to get the Intimidate off. If it goes for anything other than Rock Slide, then Salamence is in the driver's seat. I can take some damage on this Salamence, who's bulky as all hell. And because I know that this guy's only move is Flamethrower, I think Gengar is pretty safe to switch. I'll go for a burn on whatever wants to switch in. I happen to get Jirachi, which is probably the best result. Could have been nice to get Marowak or Hariyama as well, but no, this is going to be pretty linear from here. The Jirachi's down. Celebi is just going to come in on Starmie and go for Baton Pass, and then get into whatever is best at handling the Starmie. I'm just going to go for HP Flying into the Hariyama. Ments can come in, but it's not making much progress. If it went for Flamethrower there, that could have maybe been interesting, but I'll go for T-Bolt. Assuming Starmie to switch in, I get a Paralysis, and this is basically GG, and my opponent forfeits. Reason why is I can simply just take a kill on anything else here. I could go for Giga Drain, which mid-grounds Marowak switching in. Hariyama could switch in, but I am pretty sure that Star's Hariyama is a thick fat one, so I could burn that, and that would be really bad. Salamence comes in, I can Ice Punch that. So this is like a carousel of bad vibes at this stage. If my opponent gets the next like 2 or 3 turns right, they can get out of this without losing a Pokemon, but it's going to involve getting Starmie in versus Gengar, in which case I could go for Celebi, who is threatening to CM and Baton Pass to something like Jirachi and win the game. So yeah, this is pretty linear there, and especially when I'm familiar with the team. So does that mean you should never use a team that people are familiar with on ladder? Absolutely not. They're like, teams are popular for a reason. They're good for a reason. So definitely use popular teams, but note that your opponents will probably have more information about your team if you are not custom building them, which is a big reason why I like team building. I think team building gives you a really nice advantage, and everybody should try to learn how to team build, which is what this channel is all about. So let's go into the next game here. We'll go back to the first turn to see the lead Salamence. Now we have no information about this Salamence. We don't know if it's faster than Jynx, if it's mixed, if it's freaking Wish Salamence. It could be anything, but I am willing to risk the Jynx here, so I'll go for Ice Beam. My opponent switches out, and it's not guaranteed that the Salamence is slower than Jynx, but if it was faster, it should have clicked the move. So that tells me mostly what I need to know there. And I get Ice Beam on Swampert, and I do a lot. Wow. I can Lovely Kiss this, and now Swampert is in trouble, because I can 2-hit. I might be able to 2-hit KO it from there. And I will go for Ice Beam. I catch Tyranitar, who reveals no item, which tells me that it's probably Lumberry. In fact, it's actually, I believe that's actually banded based on that damage. And I managed to get Dugtrio in on a Rock Slide. So that's really good. Going hard Dugtrio on Tyranitar with Jynx can work out really well. But like I said, something like Hidden Power Bug or Earthquake can just straight up kill Jynx, and if it happens to be an Adamant Tyranitar, clicking Earthquake, it will kill Dugtrio. But sometimes people want to go for Rock Slide to get the mid-ground into something like a Skarmory switch. Generally, though, if you have a Tyranitar in against Jynx, I would click Earthquake almost every time. It's going to be best into Dugtrio. You might get the kill on it, depending on what Dugtrio set it is. And you're not super duper common to see something like a Skarmory on a Jynx team. A lot of Jynx teams are spikeless, but some of them that even opt to run spikes are going to use something like Fortress instead. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. So I'd managed to eliminate the Tyranitar, which is really big. Skarmory comes in it, which I can just go to Gengar. Gengar is going to beat all 3 revealed. Celebi comes in. I Thunderbolt and I get a Para, which is nice to have. I'm not going to complain about it. But I will go hard to Dugtrio. The idea being, if this Celebi clicks Leech Seed, Recover, or Calm Mind, or gets fully para'd, then Dugtrio might be able to claim another kill here. It's really aggressive, but it does not pay off for me. So I don't know if I would recommend that you do that play as well. I think probably just going hard Celebi was the safest thing. But Celebi is now in. I can go for a Calm Mind, and I am HP Fire on the Celebi, so I can just take my damage on Skarmory, who is most likely going to roar me out. Does not want to let me Baton Pass to something that is better into Skarmory. So, yeah. I go for Will-O-Wisp here, predicting a switch, possibly to Celebi. That would have been better for me, I think, than clicking Thunderbolt, because it's going to force the Celebi to switch out at some point, or click Recover. And they actually reveal Gengar, who I do not land the Wisp on. But I do see that it is faster, so I don't necessarily want to stay in. I'm going to go to Jirachi, who takes a T-Bolt. Jirachi should kill with Psychic, so I'm going to go for Calm Mind. Very greedy of me, I know. But this means that I can 2-hit KO the Celebi, generally. I mean, it could be a utility Celebi, which might dodge it with leftovers plus Leech Seed Recovery. But no, that Fire Punch did a lot. I opt to switch to Celebi, kind of anticipating Swampert to come in and leech a bunch of HP off, and then maybe get another switch. Don't know if that was the best idea. Maybe I could have just stayed in and clicked Fire Punch again. If I get the burn on Salamence, this game is possibly just over from there. And Celebi is really bad into Salamence, who reveals to be leftovers. I will go for Baton Pass, because I am somewhat fast on my Celebi. And I thought that it could possibly be a mixed Salamence. Although maybe I should have just hard switched. I don't know who I would have switched to, though. I guess probably just Salamence itself. But honestly, though, I did see that based on the Sandstorm damage, based on the Sandstorm damage, I was faster, so a Baton Pass was pretty fine there. This Salamence goes for a Flamethrower, which doesn't do much to my Mence. I'm thinking to myself, this might be a Wish Salamence if it has Flamethrower, so I could stay in. But also, if it happens to be mixed with Dragon Claw and kills me, then I have a pretty free switch to Gengar. This Celebi's really low. Ice Punch is going to kill it. So I can just go for Ice Punch. Best move into Salamence, best move into Celebi, and certainly fine into everything else. I can just click what's in front of me, kill this Skarmory off, and then Gengar comes in. So Gengar, I'm going to switch to Jirachi, and it reveals Hypnosis, which is not great. I don't really want to switch to Celebi at this stage, because I don't want to get Ice Punched and possibly 2-hit KO'd. So I'm going to try to play for the Wake Up on Jirachi. I'm pretty likely to wake up in time to get my Psychic off, My opponent goes to Celebi, which gives me another turn and enough leftovers chip to live a Hidden Power Fire, but I'm to sleep for the max turns, so that is unfortunate. So my lead Jynx is getting slept on, literally. But now I can go to Celebi, who should live an HP Fire, especially with a Calm Mind boost. If it crit there, I could have been in serious trouble, but I have outs here. I'm going to Baton Pass, and now I get into Jynx here. So this Jynx has a Calm Mind boost, which is really nice. I can go for Ice Beam to just finish off the Celebi. In comes Gengar, who I'm assuming is going to click Hypnosis. So I'm simply going to dodge it and go for Substitute. And now behind the Substitute, I'm just going to beat the Gengar. It goes for Explosion. Possibly its only move to break Jynx's sub at this stage. Don't know for sure, but possibly. And then I Ice Beam the Swampert, who stays asleep for one additional turn. You could say I got lucky there, but I mean, my Jirachi was asleep for 4 whole turns. I could have got a kill with it if it woke up any amount of turns earlier. So like I'm fine with that. And there you go. This is the idea of the Calm Mind pass to Jynx. You can generate some free turns with Lovely Kiss. You can substitute off against a Pokemon that can't hit you that well, and then you're good to go. Yes, and I acknowledge that if I got Hypnosis on the Jynx, I was in trouble. I would have had to probably sack Celebi and then 1v1 with my own Gengar, which it was possible it could have, depending on my opponent's Gengar set, but it would have been dicey. This is probably a more consistent line somewhere in there, but not as consistent at showing off the Calm Mind Jynx. Or the not Calm Mind Jynx, right? Because I'm not running Calm Mind on my Jynx. Alright, let's go to the last game here. Lead Tyranitar versus Jynx. This is a tough lead. I talked about this being volatile. I think the line for this team is to just go for Ice Beam on Tyranitar. If they kill you, then you have Doug follow-up to kill the Tyranitar. If they go for Dragon Dance, you can go to Dugtrio. If they opt to go for a move that doesn't kill Dugtrio, then you have the chance to go for Earthquake. If they Dragon Dance again, they're probably going for Earthquake because they don't want to die to Dugtrio, so you can go to Salamence. Then I'm going to go to Jirachi to take a Rock Slide. Jirachi is... technically, my Jirachi won't kill Tyranitar from here. So if I went for another Dragon Dance, I could have been in big trouble. But I'm hoping that my opponent will be scared enough of the Jirachi to just kill it straight up. And they do. Now I can go to Salamence, and Salamence's EV to live 1 Rock Slide here. But my opponent gets the crit! That's really bad. But now I can go Dugtrio. If it's not Adamant Earthquake, I should live it. And it seems to not be, so that's fine. If it was Adamant Earthquake, that was probably just a handshake right there. I didn't really have much else I could do. I guess I could have went Gengar maybe, but I'd probably just lose one-on-one. But now Gengar's in against Skarmory. This is one of Gengar's favorite matchups. T-Bolt is strong. I can go for a Will-O-Wisp, trying to catch the Skarmory switching, but I don't get anything. So I go for Thunderbolt here, and that is an offensive Gengar based on how much damage I did with my Thunderbolt. I'm gonna just opt to go for it again, and I get the kill. And this is why. So somebody on one of my previous videos, because this is a Gengar set that I've used on a previous team, I believe it was actually on my Dugtrio team, has asked, like, why do I run this weird offensive Gengar, which is not max speed, and it has a little bit of Spadef investment. I'm even stealing 4 EVs from special attack to do this. Well, to me, there are 2 matchups where that special defense matters. The first one is against Gengar. Um, Against an offensive Gengar, we are going to generally live 2 T-Bolts plus Sand, which is really nice. Against Moltres, we can live a Fire Blast from a timid Moltres, I believe, with the Gengar investment that I have, which is possibly important because I could be in a situation where I will have to switch my full health Gengar into Moltres to handle it. And if Sand is not up, then Gengar can live the Fire Blast, and then it's outspeeding and threatening a KO with T-Bolt. So that's basically what my Gengar's for. Now, that's a very, very niche situation, but against the offensive Gengar, like, I think this is important. So this is what I'm doing with this Gengar. And we're fast enough to outspeed a Adamant Tyranitar after a Dragon Dance. So that was kind of long-winded for a video that's not even about Gengar here. I've had somebody criticize my move choices, though, on Gengar, that they don't like the Bolt Beam Giga Drain Will-O-Wisp combination, which, I mean, all right, if you don't like that, that's fine, but I think it's actually pretty good. So, I mean, yeah, you get walled by Blissey, but, like, honestly, every Gengar gets walled by Blissey unless you're willing to trade the entire Gengar, which, fair enough. Blissey's a very high-value target, but I think there are more ways to play around Blissey than just boom, like clicking Boom or Destiny Bond. So, yeah, fortunately I didn't run into too many Blisseys, and Blissey can be a little bit tough for this team. So, after I just talked all that good mess about Gengar, I do think that there is an argument for running Explosion over Will-O-Wisp or Giga Drain. If you are using this team and you are struggling to handle opposing Blissey, but in any case, enough yapping. Let's get back into the battle. I've got a Calm Mind Boost in front of Skarmory. I'm always going to take HP Fire damage on Skarmory because either I am doing significant chip to it, or the Skarmory is going to roar anyway. So at this stage, though, I assume that my opponent just wants to get all 3 layers of spikes up, so I'm going to Baton Pass to Jynx. Now, thinking that my opponent is going to kind of greedily go for Protect to get some extra chip healing, I'm going to call this out and go for Substitute. Substitute was a fantastic play here because that now means that I'm going to beat this Aerodactyl. And that was honestly kind of necessary for me to win this game because Aerodactyl was threatening to just smoke the rest of my team. So I think my opponent actually could have won this game if they just clicked Roar with their Skarmory on that turn, but they don't. So now Jynx is just going to run away with it here. Aerodactyl can blow up my Substitute, but I will blow up the Aerodactyl in return. And then the last Pokemon, we don't even get to see. It can't beat Jynx. If it was a Blissey in the back, I was kind of fucked. But I suppose it wasn't a Blissey in the back. I'm kind of curious what it would be. Swampert? Maybe. Metagross? Maybe. If it was Metagross, I kind of can still win with HP Fire, because +1 HP Fire to it KOs. It would kill my Jynx. I could go to Celebi and beat it down with Celebi's HP Fire, potentially. But whatever it was, it must have been something that lost to Jynx, because my opponent didn't even want to play it out there. So, yeah. So there's the lesson here, is with your Skarmory, it is so tempting to go for the Protect Leftovers chip healing, but you have to identify the situation here. What can Jynx do to win the game? And maybe my opponent thought that I just was gonna Lovely Kiss, and that Protect was fine. But Substitute Jynx literally blew the game wide open. That was a guaranteed win for me, basically, depending on what the last Pokemon was. So I s- and it worked out because my opponent didn't even want to play it out there. So that's basically it for Jynx. I think it's a really interesting Pokemon. Do recommend, even if you don't like Jynx and you don't like this like what it what its lines are like at the beginning, I think it is an interesting Pokemon to play with because it has some pretty common hard counters slash checks that can be difficult to play around, but it promotes like smart switches to Doug Trio and what you can do with Doug Trio. So if you're trying to get better with Doug Trio, I recommend using a Jinx team. If you want to use this one, the pace is obviously down in the description, but there are plenty of other Jinx teams that are plenty fine to use. And then I believe my next video is going to be a little bit more about Salamence on this team, shorter one. Uh, I know those videos somehow don't perform quite as well, but it's not very hard for me to make them, and the people who really enjoy the content will get a little bit more out of it. So that's fine by me. I have one more video planned after that, uh, covering a Pokemon that has been requested by somebody in my comments pretty frequently. So if you think that's you, you might be in luck. And then I'm hoping that by the time that video comes out, that I hit 300 subscribers, so I can work on either a Suicune or a Zapdos video. If you have a vested interest in which one I work on, I have a poll up on my channel, so go find that and vote. But until then, I guess we will see you later.